Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to learn what you need to change about a few things like productivity, all those to-dos, feeling like you are running in loops of overwhelm. And I have with me today Moshe Amsell, the founder of Profit with Law, and he is on a mission to help business owners make and keep more of their wealth while strategically planning to support their future generations. Through his various services and resources, he helps countless law firms and business owners save and generate money with his logical and clear number-based approach to coaching, tax planning, and other financial services. And listeners, I love that blend of logical and entrepreneurship and creative thinking, which is why I'm so excited about this conversation. So welcome, Moshe. It's so great to have you here.
Tracy, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, be with this audience. I love the topic or the forefront of ADHD. I have two children diagnosed with ADHD, and one is a grown adult and the other is a 10-year-old. And I know all too well how amazing they are and also how challenging life can be for them to be able to accomplish things the same way that other people do. And I'm not approaching our discussion from a place of knowledge and know-how as an ADHD expert. All I want to do today is basically share how I help my clients succeed and how there's pieces of that that can help people who are trying to succeed with ADHD to be able to do so.
When I see content out in the world, and I know it's not an ADHD expert, but I know what they're talking about is so helpful for ADHD minds, it gets me really excited, especially your expertise in the field of law. And lawyers tuning in today, I know, are going to get a whole bunch of ideas that I will also help connect to ADHD. But I already know your content and the ways you talk about things are going to be helpful. So let's dive in with a little bit about you and how did you get to having this work be your area of work?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So I'm a weird unicorn in that I am a very engaged dad of 7 children. I am also a grandpa. I have 4 grandchildren with 2 more on the way. You met one of my daughters who set up this interview, Goldie. She lives in Israel. She's expecting her second. And another one, Mimi, is the COO in our business, and she's also expecting her second. So all fun stuff and amazing things. But part of why I started my own business was because of my kids. My ex-wife became an alcoholic after our divorce, and the kids ended up moving in full time with us. And I needed a lot of time for them to take them to their meetings and therapy appointments and just give them the attention they needed. I just didn't feel like I wanted to answer to an employer anymore. I also knew that there was something more for me. So when I went through my divorce, going all the way back to 2006, I did some soul searching. I read a book by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy. The name of the book is Living Forward. I give it to every one of my clients when they become a client. So listeners, you can go pick that book up. It's a short read, but if you do the exercises, it'll take you a little bit of time. But one of the exercises in that book was to write your own eulogy. And in doing that process, I realized that at the time I was in IT and I was really good at what I did, but I realized that I don't want people to get up there when I'm done and say, he was really good at resurrecting servers from ransomware in the middle of the night. Like that just wasn't, to me, that just wasn't it. That wasn't why I'm here. And when I started to really think about what is the reason I'm here, what can I do that's going to be more fulfilling, that I would feel proud that when somebody's saying my eulogy, that's what they're talking about. And it took me back to an experience that I had when I was 21. So I was 19 when my oldest was born. At 21, I was expecting my second, Goldie, who you met. And I decided that it was time for me to buy a house. And I was earning 6 figures in the IT industry. I really was doing okay as a young 21-year-old, but I didn't have any savings, right? I didn't have any money put away for a down payment for a house. So I went to my mother, who's always been the person I go to for financial advice because my father's the spender and she's a saver. And I asked her, I said, how do I go about, I mean, houses here were like 350,000 at the time. I need $70,000 for a down payment. How do I amass $70,000 to pay for a house? And I had some money put away, but nothing close to that. And she told me, well, your grandfather has some money put aside for you. Now, my grandfather left Nazi Germany when he was 11 years old. His mother and twin siblings died in the Holocaust. That his father was an orange merchant, and he was well connected with all of the officials that were involved in import and export. So he was able to secure visas for his whole family to leave, and they secured a spot on a boat. The boat was leaving from Italy to Israel, so they were leaving from Germany to Italy to Israel. And one of his twin siblings contracted pneumonia right before they left and needed to be hospitalized. And because they were twins, the mother stayed with one of the twins and said, you know what, leave the other twin with me. I'll keep them together. That was the last boat out. That was the last opportunity to leave, and they never left. My grandfather and his father, my great grandfather, went to Israel and ultimately ended up settling here in the US in Washington Heights, New York. And my great grandfather had taken whatever money he had and bought some diamonds with it and sent it with somebody to New York, knowing that this was all happening. So when he got there, he had his initial inventory to start his business, and he started a diamond merchant business. My grandfather took over that business when he was an adult, and he had some success with it. And with that success, he got together with four of his cousins, and they bought an apartment building on the west side of Manhattan. Many years later, they turned the apartment building into co-ops and started selling each individual unit off. And my grandfather earmarked that money to gift each of his 36 grandchildren the down payment of their first home purchase.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Here I am, 21 years old, don't know the first thing about life. And my grandfather is basically giving me this gift that allows me to become a homeowner and have a place for my family. And there's so many things that were the effect of that. Like I was able to save for my retirement in my 20s when I went through my divorce and we sold the house, and there was money there to then fully fund my daughter's college funds. And it just was like the gift that kept giving, although it was times 36. So for him, it was a lot of money, but it wasn't a lot of money in the grand context and grand scheme of things. And yet it was so impactful in changing my life. And I said, you know what if I can help people create generational wealth, not Rockefeller wealth, but just wealth that can change their grandchildren, their great grandchildren's lives? What if they can leave that kind of impact? And so I set out to do exactly that. And I went to school as an adult learner and went for my bachelor's, got my MBA, got my CPA, started an accounting firm to help business owners be more successful in their business and create more cash than they need so that they can do something with it to change their generational wealth, change their legacy. And that got us into advanced tax advisory because we're helping people make a ton of money and then they lose it all to taxes. So we help them to keep more of it. But that's really been what created where we are today. And I work with law firm owners almost exclusively because I just stepped into it. I aligned myself with Mike McAllowitz and his Profit First brand in 2016 through being a Profit First professional, got a lead for a law firm in Manhattan. They became a client. They liked me and they introduced me to four of their friends. And I found out of five law firms, four of them were having the same problem. And I said, you know what? There's an opportunity here for me to lean into this. And the Profit with Law brand was born, and we haven't looked back, and love serving law firm owners, love the space that I'm in. And we do some real amazing work with them.
This is amazing. So in my mind, I have so many things going, from the power of your story and your ability to take risks, trusting yourself and knowing there was another purpose for you, and stepping into working with lawyers, which I absolutely love. The statistics show there is 4 times as many lawyers facing challenges of ADHD than outside that particular group of people. And it's awesome that you are helping, that you are supporting people with this in particular, because what you're talking about is definitely one of the top concerns that comes up with clients I have. And I know our audience, and that feeling of, if you can't get out of overwhelm, it feels like you're drowning. And it's often connected to, I mean, money. We need to make money. We want to make money. So where do we start with all of this?
Yeah, money is such a stressor. I want to start by clarifying something. In your opening, you said that you're going to learn to change blah, 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 whatever it was. I want to just clarify that I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I would hate it if somebody came and told me what to do. And I don't think I know any better than anybody who's listening to this about what they personally should do. But what I am willing to share is what I have found that most law firm owners do at the early stages that really keeps them stuck, and how to get past that. And then we can talk about larger firms. I'm working with a firm that's on track to do 100 million in revenue right now. And they also have the same problems that a $500,000 firm does, right? Like, it's very interesting that it's just a much bigger problem. Like, where, the salespeople are not closing at a good enough close rate. Well, instead of it being a problem that's affecting me being able to pay my bills this week, it's a problem that's costing us 100 million because we could be a $200 million firm. So like the problems stay the same, and it's really it all comes back to the same solutions. So I think if we start at the beginning, which is like the stressor that people have is money, and just how do we deal with that, and why is that the biggest part of the problem, and then go from there, I think we'll be on a good track. What I will say is this: is I do know enough about ADHD to know that people have a misconception about it, that people with ADHD are all over the place. The reality is that people with ADHD have an ability to focus on something so extremely that everything else is forgotten about.
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to business, the entrepreneurial spirit is such that I get an idea in the shower in the morning, and by 10 o'clock, I am trying to make that idea happen. And if that wasn't the thing that's going to move your business forward, you just lost the day, or the week, or the month,
Or the week.
right?
Yeah.
So everything that we're talking about is going to come back full circle to how do we avoid that trap? How do we keep focused on the thing that we need to do? But in order to first keep focused on the thing we need to do, we first need to know what that thing is. And that's the big problem, is often we're focusing on the wrong thing. Most of the coaching and advisory industry is telling business owners, oh, you need to have systems and processes. Like, that is the most important thing in your business. And for somebody who is worried about what the bank account has in the morning, which means that you're not successful enough, that you've made it enough that that's not a worry, I can tell you that if you're focusing on systems and processes, you're wasting your time.
Tell us why.
And here's why. Business success is achieved through the leverage of other people's work. And so many people, especially law firm owners, 99.99% of law firm owners that start their own firms start it as that person, the owner, being the lawyer. And the moment that you start your firm with you being the lawyer, you've already set yourself up to be stuck for the next 10 years, because you will never have enough time in the day to produce as much as an employee who is an attorney on your staff, because of all the other things you're doing. And because of that, you will also never feel ready to hire that next person. So what happens is you've created a trap for yourself. And there's a study. So Clio is a software program that creates practice management software for law firms. And they're very, very well entrenched in the legal space. Probably, I have to guess, probably 30% of law firms out there are using Clio. I mean, it's massive. So every year, Clio does a legal trends report. And in 2018, Clio did a legal trends report. And I know that's 8 years ago, but it doesn't matter. The data has not changed. And in 2018, they did a trends report, and they surveyed 2,000 solo law firms. And they basically said, hey, if we look at your time that you're spending over the course of the whole year, what is your number of hours per day that you're doing actual billable legal work? And then how many of those hours are you actually sending an invoice for? And then how many of those hours are you actually collecting on? And those are 3 different numbers, because people, when they send invoices out, they say, oh, I shouldn't charge this much for this. It wasn't like I shouldn't have spent this much time.
Yes.
And they take money off. They take time off. And then when somebody gets the invoice, they scream and holler and say, Why is this so much? And then you discount it further.
Mm.
So what they found is that the average solo law firm owner was spending 2.4 billable hours a day, billing out 1.9 hours, and collecting 1.6. But let's think about that for a second. Because if you're doing 1.6 billable hours of collection a day, even if your hourly rate is $400, right? Times, I'm doing it right now in a calculator, 1.6 times 400, right? Times 5 days a week, times 47 weeks a year. Okay. Why am I taking off 5 weeks? Because you have vacation, sick, holiday, that's just the way it works. That's $150,000. If your business is bringing in $150,400 a year in revenue, and you have expenses, not people, but expenses. So some of that is not even going to you, right?
Yeah.
That's your income.
Yeah.
How are you going to hire a $120,000 salaried lawyer?
Yep.
Right. And the problem is that even if you were able to get your hourly rate to 1,000, even if you were able to unlock another, twice as much, 3 hours, you're still operating at a third of what an attorney on your staff can do. And if every attorney in your firm should be worth $1 million in revenue or more, you're like 7x away from that. Right. And this is the trap that every solo firm owner steps into without recognizing it, setting ourselves up for this mediocrity. And there's no way out, right? Because we think we can work more hours. More hours doesn't do it. We think we can charge more per hour. That doesn't do it. We think we can do systems and processes to make ourselves more efficient. That doesn't do it, because all of that's going to unlock a little bit. If I go 10% over 1.6, guess where I'm at? I'm at 1.8. If I go 10% over 1.8, where am I? I'm at 2.
Yeah.
We can go from 1.6 hours to 2 hours. That's not going to fix the problem. What we need to do is we need to go to having somebody who's billing 6 hours a day. And the only way to do that is to leverage someone else's time. The only way to do that is to bring someone else in. So if we approach business understanding that business is grown by hiring people and leveraging their time to pay them and then make a premium on top of that, that is what is going to allow us to succeed. And when it comes back to the conversation where we started, which is money, everyone approaches this conversation from, can I afford this? And they always come to, I will do this when I'm ready. When I have the money, I will do it. And that's the age old question, which came first, the chicken or the egg, except that here it's obvious. You cannot get to a place where you have the money until the person is there. It's the same thing as marketing, right? Like, you can't get the clients that are going to pay for the marketing until you market. You have to put the money up front. And in order to get the return back, you have to hire a person to get the return. And then the obvious question is, yeah, but how? Right? Because if I can't afford it, then how do I go about and do it? And you asked a simple question at the beginning, and you're like, well, I really want to understand your risk tolerance, right? You mentioned that when you asked, like, you want to understand. And people argue and say, I don't have the risk tolerance, or this is too much risk for me. Let me tell you something. Quitting your job or not working for a paycheck and being a business owner was the biggest risk of them all.
Yeah.
You've already done that.
Yep.
Everything else is less risk than that. And I guarantee you, we can find a way to come up with the capital necessary to invest in your firm if you believe that was the right next step. And the truth is that part of the answer is capital, but the other part of the answer is understanding what you're doing and being really smart about it. Because what's the next thing that happens? Even when somebody says, okay, I'm ready to hire somebody. I'm now at 300,000 in revenue. I only need 100,000 to live off of. 100,000 to go into expenses. I have enough to pay for somebody. I'm going to go hire somebody. What do? They go into the market and they look for an inexperienced lawyer just out of law school who I can get away with paying $60,000. And what they end up doing is they end up buying a project.
Yes.
That is going to suck the lifeblood out of them, take all their time away, and make it impossible for them to even hit 300,000, because all they're doing is trying to teach somebody else how to do their job. Instead, what we should be doing is going into the marketplace saying, I'm looking for a 5-year experienced attorney who's going to cost me 120. but within 6 weeks is billing enough that they're covering their salary and more. Because then all I need to do is front 6 weeks. Whereas if I take a baby attorney, even if I'm paying only 60,000, I'm fronting a year until they're able to be out there billing themselves enough. And if we're honest, I'm making it impossible for me to succeed because I've just created a bigger barrier than I've ever had in my business before to my own productivity and my own success. How's the owner going to go and make sales when they're busy trying to oversee this attorney and them doing that work? It's crazy what, and we don't think of it this way. Like, everyone comes by it honestly, and I'm not blaming anybody. Like, we just don't think that way. What we do is we think about what is it going to cost me? And we think in terms of annual numbers, even though in reality, like, we think of a salary of 120, like, oh, I need to have $120,000 to pay for that.
Yeah.
No, you need to have $10,000 the next month.
Yeah.
And then 10,000 the next month. So if we can get $20,000 to cover salary for 2 months, and we can get this person to handle one more file that I'm already handling, or 2 more files that I'm already handling, they're paid for.
Can you say that again? Because that is definitely a missing piece. I know it is, in how ADHD minds thinking extremes, it's all or nothing. So it's definitely the bigger, like this whole picture, and that's way too much and I can't handle it. What you just said is it's so much more empowering and doable and realistic and all the things when you break it down that way.
Yeah. So when we bring somebody on, let's say that they're experienced, so they're going to cost us $120,000. When we think of it, we think of their annual salary. We think of this huge, big thing that we need to overcome. And it's a big risk because maybe your income is not even that much money. But if we understand, and I'll break it down even further. I'll use an example. Let's say I am a criminal defense attorney and I'm doing DUIs. And a DUI is $5,000. It takes 2 DUIs to cover the salary of a $10,000 a month attorney. So if I look at this and say, and I use this as an example, we can say estate planning is $5,000 in estate plan, whatever it is, right? Like, you can figure out how many clients it will take to cover the salary of the attorney you're bringing on. And then we ask ourselves this question: do I think that if I have an attorney who takes all of my cases off my plate in the next 2 months, that I can go out there and get 2 more DUI clients? I can get 3 more estate plans. And if the answer is yes, the entire investment is the next month or 2 months it takes from when I hire until they're onboarded enough that I'm able to hand off my files to them. Because I have now gotten everything off my plate, and I can go out and I can get all those clients.
Absolutely. So when we kind of go back to the very beginning about how this conversation can change how you're thinking about productivity, I mean, you just told us a huge life-changing moment with how you are viewing your productivity. And this is actually demonstrating a whole different way to be productive when you're talking about leveraging and bringing someone else on and being able to actually do your area of genius and bring on more people.
Yeah. So the challenge, especially for people with ADHD, is that this only works if we have the focus to get somebody to that place where they're billing that time, where we bring in more clients, right?
Yes.
And how do we approach this from a place where we're doing the right things to get there? And the process that I use with my clients, which would work really, really well with people with ADHD, is 2 steps. Number 1, we created a comprehensive plan for the next 12 months. And the reason that I do that, and it's so important, and I focus on this with my clients, and I like, if we stop doing everything else together, and I didn't coach you and I didn't spend time with you, and all we did was once a quarter create your next 12 months plan, that would be all my clients needed to be able to succeed. Having the plan is when you put the assumptions on paper of what should work and making sure that mathematically it produces the result you want, which is the income that you want from your business. And if I can't get it to work on paper, It's not going to work in real life. The problem is that most business owners run their business from their gut, by the seat of their pants. We make decisions every day that's just what feels right in the moment. You cannot 10x your business. You cannot significantly grow it if you don't have a strategic plan and make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to make that happen. So step one is to create the plan. Step two is how we implement the plan. And that's where the secret sauce is. And I'll give you like the big broad scope overview because it's really not as complicated as it sounds. The moment I start saying business plan, people's eyes glaze over. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go and get like an MBA to do this.
Yes.
It's so simple. Here's how it goes. How much money do you want to make? Pick a number. Divide that by 0.7. Why? Because 30% is going to be taxes. So you want to make it after tax, right? So we're going to add the tax back on. I picked that number arbitrarily because probably you're paying about 30% in taxes. So divide by 0.7, that'll give you that final number if you had taken 30% off. That is the number of revenue you need to make, right? Now, I've got my revenue I need to make for the year. How much do I collect from an average client? Now, it's a lot easier for people who are doing flat fee because I know that number, right? Like if I'm doing estate plans, I know I charge $4,500 in an estate plan. I got that number. If I'm doing criminal defense, I know I charge $5,000 for a criminal defense client. I know that number. If you don't know that number, try to figure it out. If it's number of hours, then figure out like, what do I think the average number of hours I'm billing a client is, and multiply that times my hourly rate and pick a number. You don't have to get this perfect, but we should be close. There is more advanced things like if you have, like even if you're flat fee, but you have multiple things, multiple items. If you really want to try to get this number right, you have no way of knowing how to get there. Just take your annual revenue last year divided by the number of clients you served, and that'll give you a number. So let's say that I want to make $1 million in revenue, and I get $5,000 a client. Let's just keep easy numbers. And I'm pulling out a calculator. I'm not doing this off the top of my head, right? Although I know I could, but that is 200 clients I need to serve to generate $1 million, right? How many clients a month is that? Divided by 12, 16.67. So 17 clients is all it's going to take. Like 17 clients a month is all it's going to take to do $1 million a year. The moment I break it down that way, first of all, immediately a weight has been lifted off our shoulders.
Yeah.
Because unless you're charging $1,000 a client, the number of clients you need is going to be a lot less than you even thought you needed.
Yes.
Right. So when we do this math, when we do go through this process, one of the things that happens is we realize how easy it is. I mean, it may not be like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get 17 clients. It's easy, whatever, right? Like it might take you some time to get there. But I think the moment you know that your target is 17 clients a month, that puts into perspective a whole number of things. Number one, I now know what kind of team I need to have in place to serve that many clients. And by the way, I'm using small numbers to address a solo growing to $1 million. If you're doing 10 million, do the same exercise for whatever your target is.
Yeah.
All right. I literally did the same exact exercise with my $50 million client who's on track to $1 billion. And we did this in November, and we're now in May. As of the end of April, they're already on track for over 100 million. So they've already 2x the revenue in just 4 months by focusing on the right things, right? So we look at what is the revenue we want to create. We look at what our average revenue per client is. We figure out how many clients we need divided by the number of months. We now know how many clients we need in a month. Now we know how many attorneys do I need for this? In this case, it's one attorney, right? One attorney can easily serve 17 clients, doesn't matter the practice area. So I have one attorney who's going to serve 17 clients. I just demonstrated how one attorney is worth $1 million in your firm, by the way. So one attorney, 17 clients. Do they need a paralegal? Great, give them a paralegal. Do they need a legal assistant? Great, give them a legal assistant. So make a list of the people that you need in your organization. And by the way, attorney, paralegal, legal assistant, salesperson, and receptionist, office manager, whatever, 5 roles, and your payroll, under 400,000. So could you afford a $400,000 payroll if you were making $1 million? Yes, you could. Yes, you can, right? As a matter of fact, rule of thumb, payroll for your people at any stage of business, target 40% of revenue. So if you're at 40% or less, you're golden. If you're over and you have more capacity, they could serve more clients, you're still okay because they just aren't full yet. But let's go back. We started at the end. We begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey says begin with the end in mind. We started at the end. We said, what is it that I want to create? What is the income I want? Back that into the revenue I need, back that into the number of clients, back that into what does the team look like to create that number of clients. And then the last piece is what does the marketing need to look like to get 17 clients in? And if it's your first 17 clients, you probably don't need to spend a lot of money on marketing. It's probably more effort than money because you probably could generate that from simply hitting your network, right? Go to every other law firm in town, get them to know you, understand who you serve and how you serve them, and they'll send you referrals. Go to professions that are adjacent to yours. So if you're doing estate planning, you go to financial advisors. If you're doing criminal defense, you're going to get to know your bail bondsman, right? Like you're going to figure out who is the person who's most likely to send people your way, and you're going to get to know them and make sure that they know who you are. That alone can generate your 17. But let's say you were going to spend money on marketing. 10 to 15% of revenue, perfectly acceptable to spend on marketing. With $1 million in revenue, your budget could be 100,000 to 150,000. Divide that by 12 months, that's $10,000 a month. So now looking through a new lens, if I had $10,000 a month in marketing spend, would I be able to generate 17 clients? And most people would be like, yeah, of course, I'm able to do 5 now or 10 now, right? Without it. So now that's what I could do with it. Once we have this picture at the end, we now know how much we're spending on marketing. We know what the plan would be. And I've overly simplified this, obviously, but that's okay. We now know what the plan would be. We also know what our personnel needs to look like. We now want to look at and compare this end result scenario. This is what our business needs to look like in 12 months to what do we have right now. And now we know what the gaps are or what we need to create in order to make this happen. This is the journey for the next 12 months. It's the missing people and it's the missing marketing and sales. And that's all we're going to focus on. And by the way, what I didn't focus on, systems and processes. Now, I don't think that they're useless, and I don't think that they're a waste of time, but I think that systems and processes are going to unlock the last 20% for you. So a business should be operating at a 40% profit margin. If you operate the business the way I just outlined inefficiently, your margin will be 20%. 20% of $1 million is still way better than whatever you're doing right now operating by yourself, right?
Yeah.
So 20% of $1 million is where is the target. And then systems and processes will get you from 20 to 40. It'll unlock the last 200,000, but it has a solo or earlier in the stage, right? It's going to unlock 20% of where you are now, whereas you can unlock 20% of the future version, right? So we punt it. We save it for later. And the truth is that even later, like the next stage of growth is the same math. So I'd rather hire the next attorney and the next paralegal and the next legal assistant and build the next $1 million before I focused on systems and processes. At some point, your time, effort, and energy of doing that is going to have enough leverage that it's worth it, but it's not worth it in the early stages. And so many people spend so much time there thinking that they're trying to leverage their own time as much as possible when business is not built off of your time. It's built off of your people's time. So don't try to leverage your time. Don't try to make your time more efficient. Don't spend your evenings figuring out AI to make you more efficient. Spend your evenings figure out how you're going to hire the next person who's going to spend their time on AI, making their time more efficient. So we now have the beginning picture, the end picture. We know what's missing. The last piece is the sequencing. How do I know what to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where we want to look and say, and this is like kind of like from the book, The One Thing, right? Like, what is the one thing on this list that's going to move the needle for everything else? Sometimes it's almost always hiring somebody. It's almost never marketing because most people at this stage don't need more clients. They need more bandwidth to handle more clients so that they can focus on getting more clients.
Yes.
So if we take marketing off the table, it's people. Looking at the people, which is the one that's going to make the biggest impact?
Mhm.
Chances are it's either the attorney or the paralegal.
Yes.
So if your business is very attorney time intensive, like criminal defense or any other litigation for that matter, the attorney is going to be the number one. If it's a lot less attorney intensive, like estate planning, where you can have one attorney handle $6 million in business if you set it up right, because we need a drafter and we need a paralegal or an assistant to work with the clients. And those two together are going to basically perform all the work for every single file. Or if you're in personal injury, but it's primarily pre-litigation. All of these are like, the attorney's not really needed. And I don't want to minimize what an attorney does, but the attorney's not really needed for doing the work. 80-90% of the work that's being done on these accounts. In those cases, we could go with a lower cost employee and get the leverage that we want. So we want to look at what is the thing that's going to move the needle. And what is moving the needle? It's freeing up the owner to be able to focus on the next thing, which might be the marketing, might be the sales, or it might be hiring the next person. But whatever is going to get the most off of my plate is probably the first thing on the list. So we're going to work our way through and we're going to sequence the order that this needs to happen in. And we want to give ourselves a full quarter, 90 days for every major project. So if hiring an attorney is the first thing, it's a major project. Give yourself 90 days for that. There's no rush. We have 4 quarters to get to where we want to go.
Hmm.
All right. So it's going to take time. Create a job posting, put it out there, let your network know you're hiring, start interviewing candidates, find the right person, hire them. I mean, that it takes time. So 90 days just to get that person onboarded, right? Now, what's the next thing? Okay, the next thing is the paralegal, or actually, if I hired an attorney, the next thing is probably going to be focusing on marketing and sales. So when I look at my marketing and sales agenda, right, what is it? Is it getting Google LSAs running? Is it getting to know every law firm in the area? And if it's that, great. That's my project for the next quarter. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a list of all the potential people, and that's going to be part of the project. And I'm going to organize coffees and lunches and whatever process I'm using to connect with them, and I'll get all that scheduled and on the calendar. And I'm just going to go and do it. Now, when we look at each of these projects, they don't take more than an hour a day.
Right. So
They're-
listeners, pause right there.
Mhm.
Like, one, that is so accurate and true. And people tuning in are saying, and would have guessed 3 hours. That's going to be 4 hours, 5 hours. It's going to take me a week. Not true. An hour.
Well, yeah, if you save it all for 1 week, right? It's like my daughter was doing her homework last night and she had a packet like 17 pages and I told her it's bedtime. It's 9:30. You're going to sleep. She goes, I'm not done my homework yet. I said, it doesn't matter. You're going to sleep. She starts crying. She says, I'm trying to do the thing I'm supposed to do and you're not letting me. And I said, you were given that packet at the beginning of the week. Didn't do it Monday. You didn't do it Tuesday. You didn't do it Wednesday. You saved it for Thursday. You're trying to cram a week's worth of work into one night. And I'm teaching you that doesn't work.
Mm.
We need to learn how to spread it out. And that brings us to the last part of this puzzle. Because what we do with our clients is when we're done with the plan, when we know exactly what we're doing for the quarter, we take that project and break it down into pieces. And I did it for you without you realizing it. Hiring. It's broken down into creating and posting your job posting, doing the interview and vetting process, and then onboarding a new client. Those are the 3 pieces of the project. So we break it down into 3 pieces, and then we take the first piece and we break that down into further chunks. A quarter has 13 weeks in it. There's a lot of time.
It's a
And
lot.
if we choose that at the beginning of the week to focus on that project just enough to get that week's worth of stuff done, it will only take you an hour a day. Sure, sometimes it's going to be a 2-hour thing, but you don't need to do it 2 days in a row, right? Like you can do 2 hours today and nothing tomorrow, and it's still an hour a day,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But what the magic of this is that at the beginning of the week, you have a meeting with yourself. It takes 15, 20 minutes, and you check in with your project. You check in with the to-do items that need to happen, and you calendar them. And that is the final nugget that, like, if you do this, you will succeed. It is guaranteed. You cannot fail, because when you take all the baby steps along the way, you will have, at the end of the quarter, you will have completed your project. Sure, there's going to be hiccups along the way. You'll fall behind, you'll catch up. But if you stay on top of it every week, you'll make those minor adjustments. First of all, we tend to overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we could do in a year, right? Like that's the concept here. But we know the saying, like, if a plane takes off in JFK and if it's off course by 1 degree and it's going to New York, it'll end up in Florida or further south, right? But what happens is that really does happen. And the pilot's job is constant course correction. The wind blows, like, it's impossible for the plane to head in the same direction the whole time. And all the pilot is doing in the entire flight, and now it's autopilot's doing it for you, but constant correction of course, saying, here's where I'm going. Am I still on course? No, I'm off course. I'm going to go back on course and make an adjustment. That's what we're doing every week with our check-in. We're checking to see if we're on course, making a slight adjustment. If you wait until the end of the quarter to make the adjustment, we're making a much bigger adjustment, and it's much harder to get back on track. And if we wait until the end of the year, it's even harder, and it's another year wasted. So at the end of the day, the one thing that is going to get you to success is the action of, at the beginning of the week, spend 20 minutes, check in, outline your week of the things you need to do that are for this project, and stay focused on it. And I guarantee you, you will succeed. And I believe that we prepared for the listeners, we prepared a one sheet for you to use.
Yes.
To be organized in that thought process, to be able to put this down on paper. And if you follow that and you do that consistently, it will happen.
It will. And for listeners thinking, wow, this is, a whole new way of thinking. You have flipped the script, I think, from systems are the way to be productive to no, that is actually going to come later. Listeners, step 1 is get curious. Go listen to this again. Use that sheet. Do a brain dump of what this, starting with the end in mind, looks like. And just take that step, because once you take that tiny step, it's not so tiny, it's huge impact. Moshe, this has been a great conversation. So helpful how you broke it down into these different pieces. And this is how change happens. You gave us the roadmap of how to do this.
Yeah, I'll just put a shameless plug. Like, if you really understand this process and you're like, hey, I want to go deeper, we do a workshop every couple of months. It's a 2-day experience where we actually walk through your business, your numbers, and help you to create your plan. And you can learn more at profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026, which stands for Law Firm Growth, or Let's F and Go, either one, 2026, right? But I'd be happy to have you in the room. That's not why I'm here having this conversation, but it's what we just did in 40 minutes. There's a lot more to it, and I want you to be able to do it yourself. But if you're struggling to try to make this happen, I want to be with you in the room and help you to make it happen for yourselves. But I really appreciate being here, Tracy, and hope that this information was helpful for the people tuning in.
I know it is, and people know how to find you and use that gift. And thank you again. It's been a great conversation, and I know you're putting ideas right where they are needed. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Take care.